The idea that you can win the game with your commander and just one other card is incredibly appealing. After all, why use more card when one card do trick? But with A+C combos, they're very rarely straightforward. There are all kinds of hoops that you need to be jumping through. You could require a ludicrous amount of mana, they might need further setup, they might need combat to go incredibly favorably for you to actually work out. So for this video, I looked at around the top 50 decks in the format and then even went a little bit further to find you 9 A+C combos. Not a comprehensive list, but it should serve you well enough to know that if the player that everybody's been ignoring all game that's in top deck mode is just one top deck away from killing the table. As per usual, I'll be going in order of popularity, so we're starting off with Tivit, Teller of Secrets, and Time Sieve. Tivit, when he enters the battlefield, or smacks someone, will generate you 5 artifacts, some combination of treasures and clues, 2 of which are chosen by the Tivit player, 3 of which are chosen by the rest of the table, but for the purposes of this video, it doesn't matter if they're treasures or clues, and so from here on out, we'll just be referring to them as clues, because again, it doesn't matter for this combo. Time Sieve, you can tap and sacrifice 5 artifacts to take an extra turn. So, normally this combo is very smooth, assuming you already had Tivit in play. But if you're in a do or die situation and you have to Tivit and Time Sieve all in the same go, it can get a little bit wonky. So what you're going to do, you're going to cast Tivit, you're going to make your 5 clues. You're going to cast Time Sieve. You're going to sack all 5 of those clues to take an additional turn. This is why things are a little hairy. On that next turn, you're going to smack player 1, you're going to generate 5 clues. You're going to sack all of those to take an additional turn, then you're going to smack player 2. You're going to repeat this process until all 3 players have 18 damage on them, because at 24 they die to commander damage. Then, you're going to go ahead and smack player 1 again, killing them. Because player 1 is dead, they don't get to give you your clue, and so you will only generate 4. This is why things get a little hairy. Now, you have a couple of options here. In a do or die situation, you can sack the Time Sieve to itself alongside those 4 other clues in order to take an additional turn and kill player 2. Then you are in a 1v1 scenario with player 3 where they have 18 commander damage on them. You have just taken something like 11 additional turns, during which you had to spend no mana to continue the combo, so you better be able to win that 1v1. But the idea that you can Tivit and Time Sieve all in the same turn without having any other mana rocks that you could sack to the Time Sieve, kind of an unthinkable scenario, right? And so generally, this should be a very straightforward A+C. You shouldn't really run into the situation where you're down to the 1v1 with the last player. But that's sort of the worst case scenario, and even that is a fine scenario. Tivit is incredibly hard to remove. You have 11 additional cards, you have all your lands untapped, you probably have other creatures in play or some counterspells or something. You should be good. But that's Tivit Time Sieve. That's by far the most popular A+C that we have. Our second combo was absent from the infinite mana discussion because these players choose to make just enough mana, which is good enough for them, I guess. We're talking about Najeela the Blade Blossom and Daravi Imperial Tactician. Najeela says that whenever a player attacks with warriors, you can make an amount of 1/1 tapped and attacking warriors for each warrior they were attacking with. We're not playing footsies with the table here. The warriors are all for us. And then the important part, how you kill people, you can pay Woogbur to untap all of your attacking creatures, give them haste, and lifelink and trample, and then take an additional combat phase after this one. And Daravi just says when you hit someone, untap a permanent. So you need Najeela and Daravi in play and enough mana to kind of get off the ground. You are going to attack with Najeela. We'll assume you just played Daravi this turn for the purposes of this, because it's possible. So you're going to attack with Najeela. You are going to make a 1/1 warrior that is going to untap 2 lands or permanents that generate mana so that you can pay the Woogbur to make an additional combat phase after this one, untapping Najeela and your warrior. You're going to go to combat again, swinging with Najeela and the warrior. This time it'll make 2 warriors, so now you get to untap 4 permanents to go ahead and pay for your Woogbur. After that, you're making 4 more warriors, so you have 8 attacking creatures, you untap 8 permanents, and it's sort of this snowballing effect of just paying Woogbur and killing the table with all of these 1/1 warriors that are coming in that you double up on each time. There are some issues here. Number 1, it can be difficult to perform this combo all in the same turn. Like, Najeela has to have already been in play because she needs to be able to attack, and if you play Daravi, he does cost Bant, so it's not like Soul Ring or Mana Vault or Mana Crypt can help you with this combo. Colorless mana is pretty useless to us here, which does make it a little bit difficult to just jam it all out in one turn. The second thing is that if every player has a Najeela blocker, it's going to be really hard to get off the ground unless you have a Samut or some other warrior out there, because Najeela is probably going to need to go in a couple of times. That said, if one player doesn't have a Najeela blocker, then you're off to the races, because you can just swing at that player consistently until they die, and by then you'll probably have hundreds of 1/1 warrior tokens that'll make hundreds more 1/1 warrior tokens when you attack. And so it is a little bit dicey. It is a 3/2 with no evasion that you need to go unblocked for a couple of combat steps, which can be a big ask, but that is the Najeela Daravi combo. And then to a lesser extent, you can do something similar with like Druid's Repository, and I think like Nature's will, but for the most part, players are in agreement on Daravi and a little less in agreement on those other options. Our next combo is similarly combat focused, though much easier to perform. We're talking Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator and Glinthorn Buccaneer. Malcolm says whenever a pirate you control deals damage to an opponent, make a treasure token. Glinthorn Buccaneer says whenever you discard a card, deal 1 damage to each opponent. And then for 1 in a red, while Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking, you can discard a card to draw a card. So we have both these creatures in play. We go to combat. We attack with the Glinthorn Buccaneer. We pay 1 in a red to discard a card to draw a card and deal 1 damage to each opponent, which will have Malcolm generate 3 treasures. We use 2 of those treasures to do the ability again. Discard a card, draw a card, deal 1 to everybody, make 3 treasures, and we do this until the entire table is dead. It's pretty straightforward and can be done in 1 turn pretty easily because Glinthorn Buccaneer has haste, so you can immediately throw it down and swing as long as you already had Malcolm in play. Things do get a little wonky in some scenarios if there's like a massive life total disparity in a couple of players. For example, if player 1 is at 40, but player 2 is at 15 and player 3 is at 10, then you're probably not going to have enough additional treasures from killing player 3 to finish off player 2 and player 1. So in these massive life disparities, you can run into a bit of an issue, but that's something you kind of need to math out before you actually go for it. This is also, not the most popular Malcolm deck. Malcolm tends to be paired with Tymna. You're not really seeing like a lot of red Malcolm, but this is sort of the appeal of something like Tana Malcolm or Malcolm Kedis. They all run this combo just because of how efficient it is. Our next combo is Rocco, Cabaret Kitterer, and Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. I was actually playing Rocco when this combo came out, so I was pretty excited for it. And it goes as follows. Rocco costs Naya and X, and says when Rocco enters the battlefield, if they were cast, then you can tutor a creature from your library into play with CMC X or less. Elish Norn doubles ETB triggers. So, with Elish Norn in play, you Rocco for X equals 5, you go get Kiki Jiki and Felidar Guardian, you kill the table with Kiki Jiki Felidar Guardian combo. The problem is that is a 13 mana play. If you're just shy of that, if you only have 12 mana, then you can Rocco into Emil Dockside, and then make infinite mana, and then go get Kiki Jiki Felidar Guardian. It's really difficult to spread this combo out over 2 turns because Elish Norn is not only a powerful combo piece, but a powerful stacks piece, and so players will do their utmost to remove it. And so trying to get this to table, very difficult. Rocco actually also doesn't need the Elish Norn. If you have 18 mana, you can Rocco for X equals 4, get Felidar Guardian, blink Rocco, redirect to the command zone, cast Rocco again, get Kiki Jiki, kill the table, but that's like 17 or 18 mana, so you need a really good Dockside regardless of how you want to perform this combo. But it can happen, and that's why it's worth a shout out and a spot in this video. Niv-Mizzet Curiosity has been what has been keeping me from making this video for a little while, or making it difficult to script. I've been losing sleep. Niv-Mizzet Curiosity is a combo that I've been hearing about since I got into Magic the Gathering, and so the way that it functions, Niv-Mizzet Peyrune says whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, you draw a card. Whenever you draw a card, you can deal damage to a player. Curiosity and Obsidian Eye and Tandem Lookout and all the other sort of redundant effects for Curiosity say whenever enchanted creature deals damage to a player, draw a card. So you attach Curiosity to Niv-Mizzet, somebody casts an instant or sorcery, you deal damage to a player, you draw a card, which deals you a damage to a player, which draws a card, which deals you a damage to a player. Here's where I run into issues with this. If you turn 1 this combo, you have 91 cards left in your library. Your opponents have a combined health total of 120, putting you 29 damage short from killing the table. And I know that in all of the other combo videos we talked about, like, yeah, if you draw your library, that's a win. That's because you main deck combos that kill people. Niv-Mizzet doesn't do that as far as I can tell. Niv-Mizzet Curiosity is the combo. With your entire library in your hand, you don't have an additional game-ending combo. You don't put a Thoracle on the stack, right? So, even if you turn 1 this combo, you kill 2 players, right? Bang, bang. It's down to me and this last player. I have a Niv-Mizzet and a Curiosity in play. I also only have like 10 cards left in my library. I am 5 Niv-Mizzet attacks away from winning the game with commander damage. Niv-Mizzet drawing a card off of a player casting an instant or sorcery is not an optional ability. And so I have to discard down to 7 and then 1v1 my opponent on a 5-turn clock where 5 instants and sorceries will draw the rest of my library and kill me. I don't get that. So, some, but not all, Niv-Mizzet players play Time Twister. That cleans this up for me mentally very easily. Once you've drawn, you kill 2 players, you have like 10 cards left in library, you play out a bunch of rocks, you cast Time Twister, shuffle your hand back into your library, you have enough ammunition to finish off player 3. But if you're not running Time Twister, which a lot of Niv-Mizzet players aren't, then I asked some of my more veteran friends, like, hey, how are they actually winning the game? And the answer that I got was, it's good enough. You're not killing the table on turn 1. You're not doing this combo turn 1. You're waiting until like turn 4, turn 5. And by then it is generally assumed that your opponents have slobber knocked 30 damage out of each other. Which Niv-Mizzet is a deck. It performs in tops tournaments. So I guess that's just true. As an analyst, my mind is breaking. I like my combo kills to be clean. I like them to, say, win the game. I like them to have an infinite amount of damage. This, like, damage cap that isn't the starting life total of all of my opponents has been costing me so much sleep over the last week. I have to accept that they're probably right, and that the answer is probably just by turn 4, turn 5, your opponents have randomly taken 20-something damage. But my goodness, is it rough on me. I can't comprehend playing this deck without Time Twister, but hey, you know, shout out Niv-Mizzet, I guess. Inalla Archmage Ritualist has a 1-card kill with Spellseeker. Inalla has an Eminence ability, which means that it triggers from the command zone as well as in play. And so what it does is when a non-token wizard enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 1 to make a hasty token copy of that wizard. Spellseeker, who is a wizard, says ETB, tutor a instant or sorcery with CMC 2 or less. Now, this is not hyperbolic. According to cEDH Rec, there is a 25-step combo on how Inalla and Spellseeker kill the table. I will now read it to you. And the gist of this being, don't let Inalla players resolve Spellseeker. We're going to go through this kind of quickly. Cast Spellseeker, stacking Inalla's trigger under Spellseeker's enter the battlefield trigger. Tutor culling the weak to hand with the Spellseeker's ability, and leaving triple black Shortcut
floating.
resolving both Inalla's triggers and Spellseeker's enter the battlefield. Resolve
Entomb and then
Resolve the Archaeomancer, leaving Inalla's trigger. Resolve the Archaeomancer, reanimate battlefield. Resolve the Archaeomancer trigger. Sacrifice Archaeomancer trigger from your hand. Return Sacrifice Archaeomancer. Repeat steps 20 through 24 for infinitely hasty Archaeomancers. Nixilis Captive Kingpin goes infinite with all will be one. So does Shalai and Halar, but Naya, am I right? So, Nixilis Captive Kingpin says whenever one or more opponents take exactly 1 damage, exile the top card of your library, you can play it until the end of your next turn, and put a 1/1 counter on Nixilis. All will be one says whenever you put a counter on a permanent, deal that much damage to target player. So, pretty straightforward. You have Nixilis in play, you have all will be one in play. You do need 1 damage from somewhere or something on some player to actually kick this combo off. But once that 1 damage happens, Nixilis will get a 1/1 counter, which will have all will be one deal 1 damage to a player, which will put a 1/1 counter on Nixilis, which will deal 1 damage to a player. And it's sort of the same line as the Niv-Mizzet combo, where you're exiling the top card of your library and you can cast it, and putting a 1/1 counter on and just shooting a player and sort of like drawing a card, dealing a damage, 1/1 counter, damage, that kind of stuff. The difference being that Nixilis doesn't have to exile a card in order to actually get the 1 damage. So like Nixilis can go infinite. Even once you have an empty library, Nixilis will just keep machine gunning down the table until everybody is dead. Unfortunately, again, you do need some way to deal the 1 damage to kick it off. Luckily, your opponents can help you out with that with things like fetch lands, One Ring Trigger, which they can avoid by, in response to their One Ring Trigger, tapping it again so it's on 2 instead of 1. Mana Vault. There's a lot of ways for your opponents to just accidentally take 1 damage. And so, Nixilis all will be one, will then shotgun down the table. Machine gun down the table. Shotguns don't fire like that. Up next, we have the Gitrog Monster's 50-step combo. I didn't actually look up how many steps are in it, but the bit where I read you a multi-step combo really only works once, so we're going to kind of breeze past the Gitrog Monster, but I do want to mention its existence. So, Gitrog, the important part of this is whenever 1 or more lands enter your graveyard from anywhere, Gitrog Monster draws a card, and this goes infinite with Drakmor Salvage, which is just a land with Dredge. The way that this works is you need a way to discard the Drakmor Salvage for free, which can be done by simply going to your cleanup phase with 8 cards in your hand. You are then going to replace the Gitrog Monster draw trigger with the Dredge from the Drakmor Salvage, and effectively what this is going to do is mill your entire library. From there, again, I don't have time to explain to you how this works. We already did that bit with Inalla, which is more popular than Gitrog. But if you ask your local Gitrog Monster to show you a combo, I'm sure they would be more than happy to. And finally, we can end on a rather simple note with Heliod Suncrowned and Walking Ballista. Heliod says that whenever you gain life, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment, and you can pay 1 and a white to give a creature lifelink. Walking Ballista costs double X and enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on them, and can remove a 1/1 counter to deal damage to anything. So this combo is 9 mana if you want to do it all in one go, but you will essentially, you have Heliod in play, you cast Walking Ballista for 4 mana so that it enters with 2 1/1 counters on it. You then use Heliod to give Walking Ballista lifelink. You remove 1 counter from Walking Ballista to shoot a player in the face, which will then trigger Heliod's ability to put another 1/1 counter back on the Walking Ballista, leaving it at 2. Remove 1 to shoot someone in the face, trigger lifelink, you're back up to 2 counters. You repeat this very slow process one at a time until the entire table is dead. And again, it's very important that you put 2 1/1 counters on the Walking Ballista, because if you only put 1, it's going to die as soon as you remove it, and you're not going to get the Heliod trigger, and you're going to be very sad that you flubbed up what is a very straightforward combo. That's really it. It's, again, super simple. Super simple to end it off. And that is going to do it for this A+C video. Let me know in the comments if there are any that I missed. And that is also going to kind of wrap up my introductory series into comboing in cEDH, and now we can move on to some other stuff. And I hope that gave you a good sense of what is out there for you to explore if you're looking to get into cEDH, what options are available to you. And again, if you are totally lost, just play Blue Farm.